Shabbos shelifnei HaPesach, Korin also Shabbos HaGadol, Mipnei HaNeis Shenaseba. This is the language of the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Pesach, Siman Tov Lamed. The Shabbos before Pesach is Shabbos HaGadol because of a nes. A miracle happened. What was the miracle that happened on a simple level? That Klal Yisrael on that day, the 10th of Nisan, they took the sheep or the goat and dedicated it as a korban. And this was an act which was a total act of defiance against the Egyptian culture and the Egyptian nation, a total sacrilege in the eyes of the Egyptians, comparable to, in the modern world, sort of burning the flag of the nation. And the Egyptians could have attacked the Jewish people then at that point, and they didn't. And that was the nes. The nes was a nes of protection. That's the simple pshat. But I'd like to introduce you to three other perushim which we find, which take us a little bit deeper into what the notion of Shabbos HaGadol means. What was Gadol particularly great about the status of Shabbos? This Shabbos of the 10th of Nisan, just the week before the Yetzias Mitzrayim. So the Sfas Emes has something very beautiful to say, connecting Shabbos HaGadol to Avram Avinu. That in the beginning of Lech Lecha, Avram Avinu is promised, Ve'escha l'goy gadol. I'll make you into a great nation. But great in what respect? So Chazal say that Avram Avinu said, I don't want a nation that is great militarily or great economically. It's all very good to be economically strong, and militarily strong is essential for survival, but that's not the gadlut that I'm looking for. I want Ve'escha l'goy gadol. I want children who are kochvei hashamayim, who are people who will radiate Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, they radiate Emunah and Chesed like I do. I need somebody who will be Gadol spiritually. What happened was that it was only on this Shabbos, when Klal Yisrael, as a nation, take the animal which would be designated as a Korban Pesach. This was the first mitzvah done by Klal Yisrael as an ummah, as a nation, as a goy. The Goy Gadol concept came into being on that Shabbos. When they showed the emunah, they showed the determination, they showed their fearlessness and their willingness to completely cut themselves off from any connection to the tumah of Mitzrayim, the promiscuity, the avodah zarah, the corruption, all that they were negating, and they were going on a new derech, the lech tech acharei bamidbar. That derech was the beginning of the Goy Gadol. Hence, says the Sfas Emes, Shabbos HaGadol is the Gadol that Avram Avinu was promised. A very beautiful connection to the others. In another place, the Sfas Emes has got a different perush completely, which is that actually Shabbos HaGadol means that Shabbos itself, as a concept, was upgraded, shall we say. In other words, until that Shabbos, every Shabbos was significant because it was Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis. That the world, that Shabbos was important because it commemorated God the Creator. That Sheishis Yomim Osa Hashem Es Hashemayim Be'aretz. That was the meaning of Shabbos until that point. Something happened at that Shabbos, where Shabbos is no longer only Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis, but something else is connected to Shabbos. Not about the status of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but about the status of Klal Yisrael. What does that mean? If you listen to your Kiddush that you make on Friday night, we say the Shabbos is Zeichel Amaisa Bereshis, Techilul Mikroi Kodesh, Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim. And the Mefarshim want to know, what is it about Shabbos that is Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim? Of course, textually, the answer is very straightforward, that this Kiddush is based on the two different versions we have in the Chumash of the Ten Commandments. The Aseres HaDibros in Yisro, Shemos chapter 20, say, Zochas Yom HaShabbos Lakadsho, why? Ki Sheishis Yomim Osa Hashem Tzishmayim Be'aretz, to commemorate the creation. But in Devarim chapter 5, in Voes Chanan, there the Torah says you should keep Shabbos and refrain from work. Why? V'zocharto ki eved ha'yisa b'Mitzrayim v'yiftecho Hashem. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeemed you from Mitzrayim. So Shabbos became, says the Sfas Emes, Shabbos became greater. Why? Because Shabbos now is also Zeicha L'Yetziat Mitzrayim. What is it about Shabbos that is Zeicha L'Yetziat Mitzrayim? On that, there are quite a lot of commentaries, but on a simple level, a powerful idea which has always spoken to me is the idea that actually refusing to work on Shabbos, refraining from work, stepping back from workaday life on Shabbos is the greatest expression of me'avdus lecheirus. It means that the world around you doesn't dominate you, doesn't enslave you, that we have a life outside of the work that we do in the workaday week. In every workaday, every weekday, we work for various reasons. But when it comes Shabbos, we are able to step back. Being able to step back is a siman that we are not avodim. I remember I used to give a Daf Yomi Shir in London every day, and of course, when you give a Daf Yomi Shir, even on days that you're unlikely to learn. So I had to give a Daf Yomi Shir on Purim. Only I couldn't give it in the evening like I usually do, because in the evening, most people, including myself, had drunk a little bit and were not ready to give a shir. So I used to give the Daf Yomi Shir at 2 p.m. Early afternoon on Purim. So one of my regulars said, look, I'm very sorry. He told me a week beforehand, I'm very sorry I can't come in on Purim because I'm working in the office on Purim. So I said, okay, look, if you can't come in, you can't come in, try and catch up. And then I thought to myself, I said, why are you working on Purim? What are you? Are you an Eved Kanani? He was a partner in a law firm, right? He could have decided to take off the day. I said, are you an Eved Kanani? Why are you working on Purim? Anyhow, 10 days later was Purim, and sure enough, he turned up to the Daf Yomi Shir. So I said to him, oh, nice to see you. He said, I decided I'm not an Eved Kanani. And I'm going to take off Purim, spend time with my children, come to the Daf Yomi, and I'm going to spend Purim properly. But it's a state of mind of personal freedom, which is the result of Yetzias Mitzrayim me'avdus lecheirus, the willingness to disengage from those forces which force us to work during the week, and to take a step back and to engage more in a spiritual life with a family, with the children, with learning, with ruchnius. That is an expression of freedom. And that is the second parish of the Sfas Emes, why Shabbos is called Shabbos HaGadol, because Shabbos itself got this new quality to it, which is unique to Klal Yisrael. Incidentally, the uniqueness of Shabbos to Klal Yisrael is also a very interesting topic that the Rambam writes in Hilchos Melachim, chapter 10, if a non-Jew wishes to do a mitzvah of his own bat, he wants to put up a mezuzah, I don't know, he wants to put on tzitzis, right? Ein monimo, so we don't stop him. If he wants to, lekabel schar, if he does it l'shem shamayim, he's not doing to make fun of it, he's doing it l'shem shamayim, he wants to do a mitzvah, one of the Jewish mitzvahs he wants to do, we don't stop him, says the Rambam. Interesting Rambam, that, from many aspects. Except, he says, for Shabbos. Shabbos is unique. We don't allow a non-Jew to keep Shabbos. That is the hallmark of Klal Yisrael. Me'avdus lecheirus. We went through that cheirus, and in fact, it's the only mitzvah which we refer to in our tefillas, that we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'lo nasata Hashem lekecha l'goyi ha'arotzos, v'lo inchalto l'ovdei psilim. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he didn't give Shabbos to the goyim. We don't thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he didn't give tefillin to the goyim, and didn't give tzitzis to the Ummos Ha'olam, to the nations of the world. Only Shabbos. It has a unique quality, that it is exclusively connected to Klal Yisrael because of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Avdus Lecheirus, that Shabbos is Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that happened on Shabbos HaGadol. Shabbos HaGadol laid the foundations for that Geula, and therefore it's Shabbos HaGadol. That's the second pshat. The third pshat I want to share with you is the pshat from Rav Tzadok HaKohen. And Rav Tzadok HaKohen says something very beautiful and goes beyond really the few minutes that I've got here on this shir, but he says something very fascinating. We say, L'cho Doidi, we say, Likras Shabbos l'chu v'neilcha, ki hi mekoyer habracha. We speak about Shabbos as being the source of all bracha. What does that mean? That Shabbos is the source of all bracha. So Rav Tzadok HaKohen says something very, very beautiful. He says that Shabbos actually has got two different aspects to it. In one sense, Shabbos is the seventh day, and spiritually speaking, the neshama yesera of Shabbos accumulates all the ruchnius, anything that you've done during the course of the past week, which was spiritually significant, any tefillah you did, any ma'aseh chesed you did, any moment of emunah, any moment of mesiras nefesh, or any moment of Talmud Torah that you did during the week, on Shabbos, it somehow accumulates into the neshama yesera and elevates a person, and in that sense, Shabbos is retrospective. But that's only half the story. The other half of the story is that Shabbos is also Makoyer HaBracha, meaning it is the launching pad for the forthcoming week. Meaning as follows: everything you're going to do in the forthcoming week of any spiritual importance has its shoresh in the previous Shabbos. Shabbos is Makoyer HaBracha. That in the Shabbos preceding any spiritually significant week, that ruchnius is already present in the Shabbos. Before it exists b'koyach, only not yet b'poyal. It exists potentially in the machshava and the neshama of an individual. He's making himself ready to go for a week in which there is this spiritually significant moment. And therefore, says Rav Tzadok, if during the forthcoming week there's going to be Leil Seder is such a powerful spiritual moment for Klal Yisrael, the previous Shabbos is the Makoyer HaBracha, contains within it b'koyach, all the powers of Geula, of Pesach, are contained already potentially in the previous Shabbos. Only it has to be taken, it has to be Yotze L'Poyel, it has to be realized as the week unfolds, that we get into the Geula of Leil Seder, but it was already there, b'koyach, in the previous Shabbos. The same thing is true, incidentally, it says about Shabbos Shuvah. If the Shabbos before Yom Kippur contains within it the shoresh of the Kedusha and Tahara of Yom Kippur, right? And therefore the Shabbos is something special. This also explains, he says, lots of minhagim that we have. Why do we do a Shalom Zacha, the Shabbos before the Bris Milah? Because it contains within it the Makoyer HaBracha of the Bris Milah, and similarly an Ofruf before a wedding contains within it the Sheresh of the Ahava, Achva, Shalom V'Reyus, the spiritual connection between Chosin and Kala, which is going to happen during the week. All that is contained in the previous Shabbos. So here we have, very briefly, Shabbos HaGadol on so many different levels. It's a realization of the promise given to Avraham Avinu, Ve'eschol HaGadol, become a great nation, great spiritually speaking. It's a kiyum of the second version of the Aseres HaDibros, that Shabbos now became also Zeichel L'Maaseh Bereishis, the freedom that we have to engage in a spiritual life and not be enslaved by the powers of the world. And also it was, of course, the nace of that day where Klal Yisrael decided and had the inner strength and the emunah to defy the Egyptians, and in that sense redefine themselves as a different people. And that was all happened on Shabbos HaGadol, and that is the Kedusha of this special Shabbos. The truth is, every Shabbos is Ki Yom Zeh Gadol V'Kodesh Hu Lefanecha. We say about every Shabbos, but this Shabbos has got really a super deep and powerful Kedusha to it, which we can all benefit from, and by doing so, we can connect to the Geula of Pesach. And Chazal say, Rabbi Yeshua says in Masechus Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Aleph, but Nisan Nigalu, but Nisan Asidim Li Goel, Nisan has that potential to be the month of Geula for every individual and for Klal Yisrael V'chein Yirot.